echo chamber. This is Emma's Light Team Spirit. Today we have Elizabeth back with us. Elizabeth, welcome back.
Oh, nice to be back, John. Thanks for inviting me back.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for the support. So, Elizabeth, this call today is really about a topic that you had recommended. So when I said, Elizabeth, I'd love for you to speak to me about the things you've worked on in your career, you said, John, I want to speak about Frugal AI. So my first thing is, well, what's this then? So it sounds interesting. And I think I'd like you to introduce the topic to everyone, please. So can you introduce what it is?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's quite new. So Frugal AI comes from frugal innovation, which is innovation with constraints and doing more with less. And now we see that this topic of doing more with less in AI is emerging. So Frugal AI is essentially delivering more impact with less data, with less computing power, with less resources, and most importantly, with less energy. Now, how do we do that? So Frugal AI is about delivering value in a constrained environment. So it's quite a lot of focus on efficient AI models that use minimal resource and overcoming constraints. So for instance, it leverages techniques like transfer learning, few-shot learning, and it's really about making sure that we are not overusing data when we already have rules. So for instance, we can have a hybrid. We already know some rules work really, really well because there is a very low uncertainty. So why don't we use that and then augment and do a hybrid with AI? But these are just some examples. But the essence is delivering more.
Okay, so you've got a live project running in this area, and I think just last week you were at the University of Cambridge trying to just formulate some initial ideas. I wondered if you could just talk over the project really and just kind of introduce the entire thing that you're working on before we get down to the topic a bit more.
Yeah, so last week, which was the 22nd of November, Friday, at the Judge Business School in Cambridge, we had a workshop with different voices around AI, and we talked about Frugal AI. So from one end, we had startups that are working on the topic. We had technology companies. We had small businesses. We had large businesses. We had suppliers of services to large businesses. So it was quite a set of diverse voices. And we just wanted to understand where are people. So where are we? Frugal AI is new. What's happening? And the key learnings were that startups are working tirelessly on these new concepts. Because everyone is now starts to be super concerned also on the cost on environment of large language models. So there are a lot of innovation, whether it's to make data centers much more energy efficient, whether it's to make, for instance, prompts more efficient, whether to models, as you said, so having models that are intrinsically more efficient. So there is a lot of startup work on that. I think the VCs are starting to take notice, but I think the adoption in small businesses and large businesses is lagging behind, as you would expect, because usually these things come later. So we discussed about what are the things that we need to do to accelerate adoption. And one of the key things is, of course, awareness. So I'm really happy that we are here. So I think we need to be super aware about the cost of the environment, for instance, of large language models, which does not mean that we don't want to use them. Absolutely, they are critical to moving forward. But I think we should use these tools for solving for big problems and with a sense of awareness on the cost of the environments, whilst at the same time, we are finding new ways to make these models energy efficient.
So let's try and simplify this, like the why, or why you're looking at this for people. So I'll try and show some of my own knowledge. So I think what we have today is these AI models that are largely based on the transformer architecture from whatever it was 7 years ago. So the thing that powered Google search so successfully is what a large language model is now. The thing that's sort of changed outside the methodology is the compute and the level of data that can be harvested to build these products. Is that accurate in your opinion? So like serving the AI at such a scale creates, I don't know, we need just so many data centers compared to before. What would you
exactly add? And also exactly, and if you look at, for instance, the energy consumption, a ChatGPT search, they say that on average is 10 times the energy of a Google search, right? That's
Right.
just as in general. Then if you look at the statistics, and by the way, we have very poor statistics on these things, which is another topic that we need to address, because we need to bring much more awareness on what is the real consumption of models. I think there's some different numbers. Some numbers say that it's 0.1 to 1 kilowatt hour per search. Other numbers widely vary. But I think indeed, the setup, as you're saying, of the large language models is quite energy intense and data intense. Yeah. So I think on this premise, a number of startups are looking at, from one end, how can we make the compute in the data centers more effective? And here we get into deep engineering to actually how we make the models, as you said, much more effective. And we have hybrids between the things that we know. And in general, we use less data because we don't need every time for every search kind of to research everything. So we want to, start from sort of knowledge and rules that we already have. So there are a number of things that are happening. And again, for instance, some startups are also making prompts much more effective, because they're saying, depending on the type of prompts, you can use so much energy or very little. And there are ways of, and they have a system by which you kind of almost like you filter all your prompts into this prompt filter, so your prompt becomes very efficient. So there are multiple ideas on how we can solve for these problems. And I think the good news is that many startups are at it and doing fantastic work.
And just so for the regular person, then that caught my attention, the 10 times more energy efficient from the Google search. So, Google have don't have to host the models in the same way and have a different data architecture, I suppose, for managing their search queries. I suppose something basic like saying, "What time is it, please?" in Argentina.
Use Google search and not ChatGPT.
Perfectly adequate in Google
Exactly.
search. Okay,
you want the recipe of the day? Use Google search or another search. By the way, we are agnostic of company, but so to be conscious of what is a search is sufficient, a search engine, whatever the search engine you use is, versus a language model, and see that the language model is this superpower that you have. So from my perspective, language models need to be useful when it's a real problem that only a language model can solve.
Yeah, I'll probably quote the wrong number here, Elizabeth, but I sometimes see statistics along the lines of a single query to a language, OpenAI, for example. A single query would be the equivalent of a light on in a house for 1 hour, or boiling the kettle twice, or something like this. So these equivalent things that you just wouldn't think of when you're on a computer are quite illuminating, really. And I suppose there'll be lots of professionals that are probably guilty myself. So using a coding partner. Yeah, so the coding partner is like some code that you've kind of forgotten. I can find myself quite frequently using an AI product for something that is half in my memory, but that I've half forgotten. It's probably true that I could go and just figure that out some other way, rather than using
but
the
at
AI.
least you're coding, right? I would say that then maybe if you're using it for, again, as you said, what's the hour, or things that are really simple, maybe as consumers, we can be much more conscious. I think that is the side on consumers. I think if I look at the side on companies, whilst we want to spread the use of AI because it can bring a lot of efficiency to also small businesses, large businesses, etc. So don't get me wrong. So we want to make sure that there is a widespread usage of these tools. But it's more about making sure that also when we build those tools and we have data scientists are aware of techniques so that the AI can be much more efficient and less energy intensive, right? And I think there is a big call for governance to start to measure for every model what is the energy consumption. I have not seen done it yet. So I see there are a lot of governance tools. At the moment, no one is actually even forecasting or estimating very broadly what is the compute need, but also the energy consumption for running that model. So I think this is the next step and how I see things evolving in the future.
Okay. So I heard you use the word forecast there, and it was also very kind of you not to punish me for using AI too much for my coding. So thank you for not calling me out on that. Let's get to the forecast piece then. So both with your project and sort of overall macro, where do you think all this will go? Like, what do you expect to happen as more awareness comes? What would be some key things people can, I don't know, expect to see in the next couple of years? Would you like to take a guess at what you think will happen here?
Yeah, so maybe three elements, right? So first of all, awareness. I expect that there is going to be much more awareness of this topic as we move along. This is not yet bubbled up. And to be honest, I started working in only 6 months ago. And in 6 months, I already see an incredible increase, not just to me, but in general. So we see many more papers in academia. We start to see much more research. So I think there is an awareness piece. The second thing, which is very inspiring, is to see that we have so many startups now. And I see so many great ideas. So many startups are working on specific areas of this problem. And so they will come up with lots of new things that can be adopted. I think our role in general is really amplify this knowledge. And again, it's not about scaremongering and saying, oh, you shouldn't use it. Absolutely not. It's not, you should be excited about it. You should try it. But at the same time, also knowing that there is a bit of a cost of the environment. So with conscience, sort of doing it in the right way. So absolutely, we do not want to do scaremongering, but we want to have much more open conversations on what is the cost of the environment, and also what are the methodologies, what are the things we can do to limit negative impact. In general, it will mean sort of that we can have AI also with smaller data sets, which is a big win. So it means that, for instance, a small business doesn't need to have a huge data set to create a model, because with Frugal AI, you can have a very effective model with very small data sets. It will mean that we are going to use less energy. It means that we can have stronger models on the edge, for instance, with IoT and with devices that are not computers or have limited computer power. So it means that we can actually have AI embedded in many more use cases and situations, which is all good, right? And most importantly, that we will have a less cost to the environment. So I'm an optimist. Yeah. So I think it will happen.
Yeah. And Elizabeth, so cost to the environment, you just made me wonder. A question that we didn't prepare for when we planned this call. Elizabeth, do you know the current kind of, if I asked you, like, what % of global energy consumption was AI or the tech sector, would you know anything about how it's changing or growing? Like, has anyone measured this side yet? So I sometimes see things like aviation industry are doing 4%. So therefore, even though it's high emissions, it's nothing compared to industry. So there's something I see in environmental commentary. Do you know any statistics, or are you trying to study things that understand how is the AI footprint changing, or do you have a quantitative way of explaining that to me?
I have, so first of all, some numbers that probably are completely non-correct. So as I said, so I'm still a big caveat. I read somewhere that it can go up to 10%, but this may be widely wrong, so don't quote me on that. The important thing is the rapid growth, right? So, and I think you have anecdotally all seen that Microsoft and all the big giants are investing heavily in bigger and bigger and bigger data centers, which again will take more and more power. So it was news the other day that sort of nuclear plants are bought in order to data centers, etc. Yeah. So I think it's what they're consuming today, but most importantly is the exponentiality of the growth that is a bit concerning in that sense. So, and I really like the idea is that sort of we need to do what we're doing and even more, but then with less. So it's not about growing the data centers. Yes, of course, we maybe in the medium term grow them, but can we find clever ways so we can actually reduce the size and do much more with it? I think that's a spirit.
Good. So today, the takeaway for people today, the most simple thing they can do is ask themselves: are they building something complicated? Use AI. Yeah. If it's simple information retrieval. Yeah, back to Google, and they can reduce their footprint by 10 times or something like that. Well, Elizabeth, look, thank you for your insights today on this topic. And in fact, it's one that I'm really interested in. We'll post some links when we post this video of some other materials that you've got. Good luck with the project and with your business. And I would love to get you back in 6 months or something and try and update this conversation when it's all further along. I think it's going to be a continual topic. I'm just thinking, we're recording this video when the COP event has been on right now around climate change, and all these energy things are not going to go away. So as you learn more, I'd love to capture your progress on it. So thanks for everything today, Elizabeth. Ladies and gents, this has been ML's Like Teen Spirit.